Hello valued viewers, welcome back to iMUSICWKN-ETC. Your presence is appreciated to watch and listen today's commentary on chapter 38 of the book of Genesis. Genesis 38 is a chapter in the Bible that tells the story of Judah and his daughter-in-law, Tamar, and explores themes of justice, lineage, and redemption. Genesis 38 is one of the most curious stories in the Bible. This chapter seems to break up the continuity between Genesis 37, our introduction to Joseph and his 12 resentful brothers who sell him into slavery, and Genesis 39 where we see Joseph sold into Egyptian slavery and serve in Potiphar's house. And, in the middle is Genesis 38, a chapter that converses about Judah, his sons, and his widowed daughter-in-law. The events of Genesis 38 likely take place during Joseph's time as a slave in Egypt covered in Genesis 37 verse 26 to 28, and some time before he is reunited with his brothers mentioned in Genesis 45 verse 1 to 3. After this passage, the text will return to a focus on Joseph as recorded in Genesis 39 verse 1. Judah moves away from his father. According to this tradition, any children born from the new relationship are considered heirs of the departed brother. Any children Onan fathers and raises with Tamar will be considered those of his late brother. They will carry on heirs' line and heirs' inheritance. Onan is not interested in supporting his brother's children. However, he has no objection to sex, so he takes advantage of the situation. Whenever he has intercourse with Tamar, he interrupts the act at the last moment to avoid conception. God sees Onan's practice, deliberately using Tamar for sex while avoiding responsibility for his brother's legacy, as a heinous sin. He puts Onan to death, as well, Genesis 38 verse 9 to 10. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching and listening to the book of Genesis chapter 38. Genesis 38 verse 1. And it came to pass at that time, that Judah went down from his brethren, and turned into a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. Genesis 38 verse 2. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her, and went in unto her. Genesis 38 verse 3. And she conceived, and bare a son, and he called his name Er. Genesis 38 verse 4. And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. Genesis 38 verse 5. And she yet again conceived, and bare a son, and called his name Shelah, and he was at Chezib, when she bare him. Genesis 38 verse 6. And Judah took a wife for Er his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. Genesis 38 verse 7. And Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. Genesis 38 verse 8. And Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. Genesis 38 verse 9. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. Genesis 38 verse 10. And he told it to his father, and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? Genesis 38 verse 11. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown, for he said, Lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Genesis 38 verse 12. And in process of time the daughter of Shua Judah's wife died, and Judah was comforted, and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. Genesis 38 verse 13. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. Genesis 38 verse 14. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath, for she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. Genesis 38 verse 15. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. Genesis 38 verse 16. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee, for he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? Genesis 38 verse 17. And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Wilt thou give me a pledge, till thou send it? Genesis 38 verse 18. And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. Genesis 38 verse 19. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Genesis 38 verse 20. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Genesis 38 verse 21. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot, that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was northwest harlot in this place. Genesis 38 verse 22. And he returned to Judah, and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said, that there was northwest harlot in this place. Genesis 38 verse 23. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. Genesis 38 verse 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after, that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. Genesis 38 verse 25. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the men, whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet, and bracelets, and staff. Genesis 38 verse 26. And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son. And he knew her again no more. Genesis 38 verse 27. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that, behold, twins were in her womb. Genesis 38 verse 28. And it came to pass, when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. Genesis 38 verse 29. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out, and she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee, therefore his name was called Pharez. Genesis 38 verse 30. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zara. If you enjoy watching and listening to our videos, please take a few minutes to comment, like, and subscribe to iMUSICWKN, etc. Thank you.